May 25, 1983, Leningrad region. The Kornevs report to the Lodenoye Pole police station. They report that their 9-year-old daughter, Ira, has gone missing. Her friend, 12-year-old Galya Konina, has disappeared along with her. The alarmed parents ask for help finding the girls. They open a search, but all they can learn is that the girls were playing hopscotch when a man with a scar on his face approached them and led them away in an unknown direction. The disappearance of the two girls became a cataclysmic event for the city. Various theories were put forward, but no one could have imagined how horrific the truth would be. A large-scale search begins, with flyers posted throughout the city. Attics and basements are combed, wells are checked. A helicopter is used to survey the area around Lodenoye Pole, but the girls have vanished without a trace. Four days pass. The schoolgirls are discovered completely by chance by a security guard at a food service plant. He's patrolling a dump on the company's grounds and stumbles upon the bodies. Detectives immediately realized the victims had died elsewhere and were then brought to the dump. Forensic experts counted 7 stab wounds on the body of the older girl. The younger girl, Ira, was killed by a single stab to the heart. Who could have committed such a horrific crime? According to experts, the older girl, Galya, was killed in front of Ira's friend. The younger girl, still alive, had been walking through this blood, because blood from the older girl, Galina, was found on the soles of her sandals. During the examination, the forensic expert noted severe trauma to the lower parts of both bodies. Investigators put forward several theories. One theory is that a visiting tourist killed the girlfriends. Detectives requested cruise ship itineraries and passenger lists. But suddenly, forensic expert Gramatskaya makes a shocking statement. The girls had been in an intimate relationship for about a year. The authorities said, this could never happen. Generals from Leningrad urgently arrive in Lodenoye Pole. Almost the entire leadership of the regional police department ends up in the small town, as crimes against children have always been a focus of attention. But the results of the initial investigations revealed that both girls attended school regularly and never skipped classes. They were, however, very withdrawn. Ira and Galya were good students and participated in social activities. But one recent incident caught the detectives' attention. The teacher reported that one day, Ira stood up in class and immediately fell, curled up on the floor. The teacher was alarmed, but the girl, having caught her breath, sat back down as if nothing had happened. When questioned, Ira replied, "My stomach hurts." The detectives uncovered another strange detail. Ira had recently appeared ill, but her parents hadn't taken her to the doctor. The police decided to question Ira's mother, Valentina Korneva. The mother claimed that she had treated her daughter better than the doctors and had never needed any help. Her behavior was suspicious. Investigators are gathering information about Valentina Korneva and her husband, Ira's stepfather. But it immediately becomes clear that the couple had been visiting relatives in another region for the past 2 weeks. The stepfather's elderly mother was looking after the child at the time. The parents of Galya, the second girl, also had an airtight alibi. But someone had to have done all these disgusting things to the girls. And then, the investigative team receives extremely curious information. That the children last saw these girls near a meatpacking plant. Schoolgirls who often played nearby claimed that they had seen Ira and Galya take some bags several times, and then a black Volga would pick up their friends. At another meeting, the detectives proposed an almost unbelievable theory for that time. Somewhere in the small town of Lodenoye Pole, there existed something like a private club for perverts. But how could this be possible? After all, such gatherings require special secrecy, and most importantly, they need special clients. The operatives checked all black Volgas in the area. There were only a few belonging to the leadership of the city party committee and the meat processing plant. For days, police searched for evidence at the meat processing plant and found two women who, according to employee statements, had spoken with Ira and Galya just hours before their disappearance. The female workers from the meat processing plant were detained, but they categorically denied everything. "We didn't give any products. We didn't see any black Volgas." Who could confirm or refute the women's words? But the detectives got incredibly lucky. In a neighboring house lived a pensioner who occupied an observation post by his window early in the morning, offering a great view of the entrance to the facility. The elderly man turned out to be a crucial source of information for the operatives. During interrogation, he stated, "There were girlfriends and they took products." It turned out that these weren't the girls who disappeared, but the daughters of one of the plant workers. No one expected such a twist. This promising theory led the investigation into a dead end. Meanwhile, virtually the entire city became involved in efforts to catch the mysterious criminal. Special attention was paid to individuals with various deviations. The detectives began searching for a mysterious man with a scar on his face who had taken the girls away in an unknown direction on the day of their disappearance. Police started checking the medical records of all city residents, reviewing data on industrial accidents over the past years, and involving police informants to gather information. Soon, a resident of Lodenoye Pole named Neolov came into the investigators' sights. Viktor Neolov, 35 years old, was born and raised in Moscow. He had been previously convicted twice for theft and forgery. Viktor was unemployed and had a distinctive feature: a scar on his face. The detectives found a witness who saw Viktor Neolov walking with two girls down the street towards the Sphere River. The witness identified Ira and Galya from photographs and recalled that it was May 24th, the day of the girls' disappearance. Police immediately detained Viktor Neolov, but he claimed he hadn't been in town at all during that time. Detectives conducted house-to-house interviews on the street and found another witness who saw Viktor put the girls into a car. This suggested that the theory about a private club for perverts wasn't entirely baseless. However, Viktor denied everything and claimed he couldn't remember anything. Most importantly, the detectives still didn't know where exactly the murder had taken place. The car could have taken the girls to neighboring towns. The search area expanded. While checking all city residents with criminal records, the detectives found an interesting fact. It turned out that one of them, Fomin, had been Ira Korneva's neighbor in a communal flat a year earlier. Later, Ira's family moved to a separate apartment. Fomin had been convicted 3 times before, including for seduction a young girl, and served 15 years in prison. The detectives realized he could have been involved in the horrific crime. Fomin was immediately detained, but he insisted that on the day Ira and Galya disappeared, he was doing repairs in his room. Fomin's wife told a different story. On May 24th, Fomin ran home, locked the front door, took off his shirt stained with something, and decided to change its color using wood stain. This substance is usually used to treat wooden items as a preservative. Fomin never imagined that this substance would preserve bloodstains on the clothing. As a result of the forensic examination, traces of blood were found on Fomin's dyed shirt, which matched the blood of the murdered Ira. Fomin was arrested, but he denied everything. Was it him or not? The detectives had serious doubts. Fomin, a former criminal and chronic alcoholic, did not fit the profile of someone associated with a black Volga or a private club for jaded perverts. It seemed unlikely that such a person could organize such a crime. During interrogations, Fomin completely stopped answering questions. Meanwhile, detectives began checking all city residents who had been involved in cases of molestation and murder. The police paid special attention to the acquaintances and neighbors of the arrested Fomin and Neolov. Then, the police received information that a naked man with an obsessive desire for intimate contact had accosted a woman in a nearby forest. The detectives found out it was 40-year-old Sergei Myakishev, a cobbler, previously convicted of molesting and killing a girl and hanging her with a pioneer scarf. He was short, hunched, and very unpleasant to look at. The detectives began to carefully investigate his surroundings and uncovered shocking information. It turned out that recently he had offered his friend money to find a homeless and vulnerable boy for him, whom he could turn into an obedient slave. Sergei Myakishev had previously been convicted of murder and the sexual abuse and had spent 16 years in prison. Myakishev was immediately arrested, but during the interrogation, he stated, "I don't know any girls. I haven't kidnapped or raped anyone. On the day they disappeared, I was busy cutting wood." Almost 4 weeks had passed before specific facts began to emerge during interrogations. Finally, Sergei Myakishev reported that he himself did not participate in the murder, but knew from reliable sources exactly where it took place. Myakishev pointed to one of the garages near the Svir River. When the premises were opened and examined, the detectives' disappointment was immense. There wasn't a single suspicious trace, and Sergei Myakishev smirked maliciously. It became clear that he was leading the investigation astray. Despite the efforts of the detainees to confuse the investigation, the police managed to identify another suspect, Leonov. However, it was still unclear where the detainees had obtained the rare and expensive black Volga car. Eventually, investigators learned from Sergei Myakishev that the secret club was not a fabrication and did indeed exist. It included not only criminals, but also an active police officer. And the order for the girl's murder came from Ira's mother, Valentina Korneva. The regional prosecutor said, "This cannot be because it can never be. A mother could not have done this." Ira's mother worked in a cafe and often appeared home late, frequently drank, and tried to arrange her personal life as best she could. Unfortunately, the family's neighbor in the communal apartment was the criminal Fomin, who had a passion for children. One day, when the mother was not at home, he took advantage of the situation. Ira was only 8 years old. Soon, the mother realized something was wrong with her daughter. One day, she returned home early and found Ira in Fomin's room. She had a kettle in her hand and wanted to kill the neighbor. But Fomin, without hesitation, said, "If you make noise, you'll never arrange your personal life." It was during this period that Valentina met police officer Korneva and was planning to marry him. Fomin threatened to tell her future husband about her past, which would ruin the wedding. The woman fell silent. During interrogation, she waved her hands and rolled her eyes, saying, What could I have done? Soon, Valentina married, had a younger child. One day, when Ira's stepfather Korneva returned home drunk, Fomin essentially set up his own stepdaughter in bed with him. From that moment on, police officer Korneva was hooked by the criminal and was forced to remain silent. But one day, Valentina Korneva realized the horror happening in her home and understood what her second husband was doing. She had the opportunity to turn the criminals over to justice, but chose to remain silent to keep her husband. Soon, a secret club of perverts formed at the home of Fomin's friend, Vasily. Besides Fomin, Neolov, and Myakishev, it included Leonov and someone named Efimov, an elderly man who claimed to be a World War II veteran. It was Efimov who owned the Volga car. When the investigator sought permission for arrest from the prosecutor, he said, "Are you out of your mind? Arresting such a person?" The rapists quickly broke the girl's psyche. She accepted everything as normal. Somehow, Fomin involved Ira's friend Galya in his crimes. But this was not enough for Fomin. He started taking money from some club members for visits. During the investigation, there was information that higher-ranking police officers visited the house on the outskirts. But it was impossible to confirm these details. The turning point came when Ira fell seriously ill. The horrific truth could have been exposed at any moment. She constantly had lower abdominal pain. Then, Ira's mother, Valentina Korneva, made a terrible decision to get rid of her daughter and her friend to keep the secret and protect her new family. She was both the client and the organizer and found an executor, Fomin. To create an alibi, the Kornievs left Lodenoye Pol temporarily, while the other members of the criminal club killed the unfortunate girls at Vasily's house. Fomin ordered Lieutenant Korneva, "You will monitor the detectives' work and report everything to me." The detectives refused to believe the details of this horrific story. Only the dry formulations in official documents convinced them that it had indeed happened in a small, quiet town. The court sentenced 2 people to death, Fomin and Myakishev. Police officer Korneva received 15 years in prison. Neolov and Leonov each received 10 years in prison. Ira's mother spent 9 years in prison. The court considered that she had a small child and generally showed leniency towards the woman. In 1983, the tragedy in Lodenoye Pol caused shock among local residents. However, millions of Soviet citizens remained unaware. The case was classified, and not a word appeared in the press. Officially, it was believed that such things were impossible in a developed socialist society. Only later, during Perestroika and Glasnost, did we learn that there were monsters and inhumane people in the USSR, but also first-class detectives in criminal investigations. Thank you for watching the video. To support the channel, subscribe and like.